The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it, midweek editions here. It's Hail Varsity. On the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, like, subscribe, tell a buddy about Hail Varsity Radio. Hail Varsity Radio Twitter, give that a follow. Can watch the show on that platform at HVarsity Radio. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel can find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio or at Herbelessence. Lot to get to. We'll spend some time on the Husker offensive line. And is that a known quantity for you as a Nebraska fan going into this season? Joel Klatt talking Michigan and Sharon Moore. What is Michigan's future look like? We'll have some thoughts on that. A Father's Day question for the masses to lay out. A couple of recruiting notes. One tight end off to Stanford. Nebraska still in it, although not a finalist for Corey Sims out of St. Louis. A great is gone. Jerry West passing away at the age of 86. We'll check in. Mike Babcock with Hail Varsity and Hurrdat Sports. In about 15 minutes, Babbers is already in the green room, and he is rocking a Grateful Dead tie-dye. We have a great hit streak going there. In hour two, Evan Bland. We'll talk some CWS, some Husker football, and a new pickup for the Big Red in the transfer portal for Will Bolton Company. A Jock Doc. That's two Porzingis Jock Docs in a row, as he has the mother of all freak injuries. Numbers to get in, 489-1240, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Can dial up toll-free along the Hail Varsity Radio Network. Can email the show, Chris, at hailvarsity.com. Elijah, how we feeling? Good night of umping. You didn't have to run anybody, did you?
No. It was a solo job on the field out there, so I think a lot of people give you a little forgiveness. Mm-hmm. Not that I needed it. I think I was perfect with my calls last night. We had a run roll after 4, so I got out of there a little bit early.
I was perfect with my calls.
I was.
There was nothing. I love the confidence.
There was nothing special going on last night. There's some games like some weird stuff happens, and you go, "Hey, maybe if I had a different angle, I would have seen that differently." But last night was one of those games where it was like, I pretty much nailed it.
Perfect game, Elijah Herbel.
Most of them are.
Uh-oh. Things you don't mess with. State patrolman with a mustache, umpire with a mustache.
Very true.
Just rule of thumb.
I mean, I didn't have anybody from fan to coach arguing in my calls.
What was the age group?
It was 12U last night. Yeah, it was pretty easy.
12U, you're like, parents too. Once that Yeti cup is empty of whatever liquor's been poured in it, let's get this SOB over with.
It wasn't a particularly close game. As I said, run rule after 4, so that always helps with, you always have a little more leeway that way when it's like, oh, well, they still need 10 more runs.
Bang, bang, play at the plate for the run rule. He's safe.
And the crowd erupts.
And it's not anger or joy. It's just a thank you. Yeah. Just a thank you. So on 3, Andy Staples out with his playoff predictions in the 12 team. Plenty of Big Ten representation, lots of SEC representation, but we'll chew on that in a moment. So kind of the question of the day, and it's off topic from a sports standpoint, but there's a lot of dads listening. And I got to ask the question, should you on Father's Day have to chip in on your own Father's Day gift? And I ask this because it was a point of contention. I did mention it on the morning show here locally in Lincoln, but I'm going to bring it to the afternoon audience. And so at dinner Friday night with the lovely wife, the bunny, and she casually says, I've got a couple $100 I can chip in on for your Father's Day gift. The talk has been to first world problems, so this is a moment in time where I'm going to whine, but it's not really honestly that big a deal. People have true problems. But I wanted to mount a TV out back to make up for the TV that's been borrowed from the patio, right? And the patio TV was a 70-inch, got it on sale. It's on a tripod. It's just real easy to roll in and out. Wonderful. That's now in Junior's basement. And I can't get it back. So she's like, well, that's pretty expensive to get you a TV. It's pretty expensive to mount it. We can't get too big a TV for, it'll screw the siding up. And those are all fair points. But I just said, dude, don't worry about it. Save your money. I'm kind of pouting about it because I've never asked her, hey, love you. I'll take you to get your piggies done. Get your toenails done. But I'm going to ask you to chip in half. Or can you get tip? Or, hey, let's go to brunch, sweetie, for Mother's Day. But you got tip, or you're splitting it with me. I don't, in 1,000 years with her, I've never pulled that, nor will I. But for her to go, yeah, I got a couple $100. I just politely scoffed and said, no, good, just save your money.
Welcome to Schmidt's therapy session here on Hail Varsity
I'm just asking, should you have to chip in as Babbers removes his glasses in the green room and is pondering? Should you have to chip in on your own Father's Day gift?
I will say,
shut up.
No, there are varying circumstances here.
Welcome to the couch.
Where if it's like, hey, you have younger children who are obviously jobless because they are younger children, and they want to get you a Father's Day gift, but they clearly can't afford it.
Get me the ugly finger painting. It's from the heart. It's final.
It's from the heart, sure.
Fridge.
But say they have some idea in mind, but they can't afford it. That's when I'd say, okay, it's fine if they throw in a $5 from their allowance or whatever, and you cover the rest. That counts as a Father's Day gift. If your wife was, say, jobless, a lovely stay-at-home mom, and she's chipping in money for your TV, wonderful. If she has a job, and you also have a job, and you use...
She has a great job.
And you use, say, some of your hard-earned money for her Mother's Day gift. It rubs you the wrong way a little bit.
That has happened. That happens every year.
Without stepping foot into your marriage, here I'll say, could rub you the wrong way a little bit.
Yes, it has. But clearly.
You're also listening to the single guy in the room here, so take my advice with a grain of salt. I have not been able to lock down a girlfriend or a marriage, so you might not be listening to the best advice here.
Let's go to the phones real quick.
Go to F-Bomb Brian.
F-Bomb Brian, welcome in. How are you?
What is up, boys? It's been a while.
I know, man. What do you know?
Oh, I just had my daughter born on the 24th.
Congrats.
And thanks. And coaching my son's baseball team, which is like herding cats. And this, you could, I could say this because my wife doesn't listen to the show. Sadly, I'm sorry. But my wife is absolutely terrible at buying gifts in general. I just tell her, get me a gift card at Cabela's or Shields or something, and I'll figure it out, okay?
Sure.
I love you.
Yeah.
But please.
It's the thought that counts. It's the effort that counts, right? It's not the, hey, F-Bomb Brian, love you. I'm going to give you a $10 gift card, but what you want at X, Y, or Z store is probably $50 to $100, so the rest is on you.
Well, this year she can pre-order NCAA or not, sorry, EA Sports Football 25 for me.
We've turned into the Father's Day gift hints.
I will also say I think it has a slightly different connotation. If she did get you a gift card, say this would be a great starter towards your new TV. It'd be different than if it was
how it's prefaced.
Yes. The prefacing is very important here.
Because you're paying for dinner. Hey, I can chip in.
Hey, it's here. You can use this gift card how you want, but I think it'd be a great starter towards your TV. That is prefaced completely differently than I'll chip in. So
gift cards are a great gift.
They're fine.
Are.
The pitch isn't, well, you're just going to have to get a smaller TV than the one you already had out back. Is not a deal closer. F-Bomb Brian, that's awesome to hear about the gift card. That's great advice. I'm glad you have a little girl. That's incredible. Any football thoughts?
I had this random thought. I know it's kind of off topic, but okay. So we have three guaranteed games every year, or is it 2?
Nebraska just has the Iowa rivalry that's guaranteed.
Oh, okay. So, and then everything else, they just throw everybody into a hat, and that's what we get?
It can be. There are some designated rivals, like a Michigan will have Ohio State and Michigan State every year. They'll have at least 2.
But Nebraska's is just the. I wouldn't say it's just in a hat, because Nebraska's not going to get so lucky as to miss Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan every single year.
Or USC or Oregon.
That's never going to happen.
No.
It's not random draws such as that, but yes.
Appreciate the phone call, man. Thank you for checking in. All right, bud. Take care. Happy Father's Day.
Yeah.
F-Bomb Brian, check it in. We'll see how happy a Father's Day gift. It's fine.
Can I get my dad a candle?
Wow, that's the question. Let's get some shout-outs here in the StreamYard. NASCAR Eric is in first, says, what's up? Patrick, good to have you. Cliff in Florida checks in. Justin says hello. Black Hills Brennan, he's getting ready to say I do. He's sneaking in the top 5. Good to have you. KG is also in. Sal checks in and says, go Big Red, let's go. Crew is here. Love hearing from Crew. And Coach Brandon says hi. Jimmy says present. Can't wait for the CWS. Jimmy, come see us at Zipline Friday and all of next week. If you are headed that way. The real Matthew is here. Bleep CU, that can only be from Walter from Philly. I love Walter's shout-outs to Colorado. That's pretty good. The other Dave is in. Wow, I'm late. Actually, you were 3 minutes early before the show started. Dave, your game time is on time. You're good, my friend. And Tiger Shark Diver is also in and present. But we'll take your Father's Day etiquette / thoughts. Eat Beef asks, what did I just walk into?
Schmidt's therapy session.
Scott is here and says, I don't ask really. I would just go buy the TV. So Scott's remedy is do you and just go get your own Father's Day gift. Pull the Al Bundy. That's fine with me. Anthony says take the 200 and a night off and a night of... yeah. So Anthony wants me to put the 200 back on the nightstand. That's what he's saying.
I just had a great idea for your wife.
What?
If you want to have a gift that's $200, but you still want to have the possibility of it ending with a TV for your lovely husband, how about you go down to the sports book and you put $200 on a parlay that would net enough for said
7
TV.
TVs.
If it hits, you get the TV and you give Schmitty an afternoon away from you to just sit and watch TV and root for whatever games have been bet on. If it doesn't hit, at least you have the thought.
There we go.
I think that's a good idea.
Tiger Shark says I can go to Bass Pro Shop. NASCAR Eric says I'm married. I pay for it one way or the other. The real Matthew. Remember the guy in Reservoir Dogs that doesn't tip? That's me when it comes to gift giving. That's pretty funny. That's pretty good. So, yeah, there's some thoughts there on Father's Day. Real quick on the college football playoff from Andy Staples. You have Ohio State, as he's projecting, not a shock, as the top seed. Georgia 2. Georgia has a murderous schedule. Florida State in at 3, and then Kansas State 4. Your 5-12 matchups, Bama, Boise. Your 6-11s, Oregon, Tennessee. Your 8-9s, Michigan, Notre Dame. And your 7-10s, Texas, Ole Miss. That's 3 Big Ten teams. That is 5 from the SEC, 1 from the Mountain West. I think Boise's in the Mountain West. 1 from the ACC and 1 from the Big 12. That is Kansas State and Florida State, respectively. That means Penn State is eked out. Who else is a candidate? Probably SC, right? From a brand name value. Your top 4 predominant Big Ten teams are going to be Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Penn State, SC in there, right? And then you get to that mid-tier we've talked about with Wisconsin, Nebraska, Iowa. Saw some projections that Iowa's a 10-2 football team as well. And if they're a 10-2 football team, they are absolutely, because of getting out of the Big Ten with a non-conference that includes Iowa State. And I know it's not murderous. They should be under consideration. If you're a double-digit win team out of the Big Ten, you absolutely should be a playoff consideration, if not in. That's my take. And the fact that the thing's loaded up with probably a 9-3 in Tennessee, a chance at a 9-3 if they're lucky, and I know they're good. Texas, is Ole Miss's schedule's a little more forgiving, but you're going to likely have potentially a 9-3 Texas, a 9-3 Georgia. You could, I guess is a better way to say it. As good as they are, their schedule isn't forgiving at all. Get to some more of your phone calls, get to your emails, more thoughts from the stream. And KG is just heartbroken. We talked about it yesterday. Joey Chestnut not going to be in the hot dog contest, but there will be a Kobayashi v. Joey on Netflix.
That'll be better.
That'll be good stuff. Mike Babcock standing by with Hail Varsity and Hurrdat Sports. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. We welcome in with Hail Varsity and Hurrdat Sports, Mike Babcock at MD Babs on Twitter. Mike B at HurrdatSports.com is where you email him and get his bi-weekly newsletter. And it is Wednesday. That is Babbers at 4:25. And Mike, you are rocking another Grateful Dead shirt, my friend. Let's zoom out and let the folks in the stream see the Grateful Dead shirt. Ooh, you got the dancing bear on it. I love that.
Beauty.
Is that your favorite Dead tie-dye?
I had to kind of scrounge around to find this one. I don't know where all of the tie-dyes are. I've got some other ones that aren't tie-dye. And my neighbor the other day gave me one because he said he saw me out in the yard with a Grateful Dead shirt on, and he had gone to a concert in 1987 when the Dead traveled with Bob Dylan on a tour, and he had bought this shirt, never worn it. And so he brought it to me, and I thought that was very nice of him.
That's pretty awesome.
I can wear that one of these days.
Well, we'll just lock in next Wednesday with Babbers.
I got one that glows in the dark, too, supposedly.
We're going to get a new introduction for Babbers. Says something about pull out your tie-dye. It's time for Husker historian Mike Babcock here.
I love it. Mr. Husker Football.
Okay, we can do that, too.
I love it. I love it.
I don't wear these when I go to Husker games.
You could. You should.
No, I don't think I should.
Can you wear it under your Southern Tide or polo gear? Because you're always dapper in the press box, brother.
Oh, yeah. Now it's Vineyard Vines is what I like.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. You and me both. Bibers and I always bump into each other on the sale rack. We paper, rock, scissors for who gets to take the polo home.
Well, Mike, speaking here of things you probably shouldn't do, going to a Husker game in the press box and tie-dye being one, would you like to chime in on Schmidt's Father's Day issues?
I don't... Father's Day, not a big deal to me.
Well, we had Mark chime in during the break, and he had a great idea. He said, Schmitty, with that $200, go buy your son a cheap TV to put into his room and reclaim your TV that is rightfully yours.
That would work. There's one. The dogs have one. Okay,
a TV.
Yeah, they have Grandma Jody's old TV in the unfinished area.
Why?
I don't know.
Do they watch it, or is it just like theirs?
It's there. They could watch it. Then they fight about what's on.
But they don't have opposable thumbs to change the channel.
They don't. Yeah. They don't. The German Shepherd would rule the channel decision-making, I think. So, Mike, let's get into some football. And wanted to get your thoughts on Nebraska. And we've talked a lot about the offensive line. And I'm interested with your take on the line. point blank, do you expect them to be better? We know the experience card is real and it's a factor, but what is realistic to you for this offensive line when it comes to being able to run the football and protect the quarterback when we think Nebraska will want to throw the football more based on their personnel?
Yeah, definitely. I think Nebraska is going to throw the football more. I think that's pretty obvious. I think the offensive line will be improved, not only from an experience standpoint, but from being involved in the strength and conditioning program, all the outside things that you don't necessarily think about. But I think that will be a part of the improvement. I think having another season under Donovan Raiola will be a part of the improvement. And I think you have some guys with some talent that will be part of the improvement. You got a couple of guys that could have left and didn't. Mm-hmm. They came back. I think that speaks well for their decision and for what to expect from them. I think there's room for optimism about the offensive line being better. And again, circle back to where we started. It's going to have to be from a protection standpoint because Nebraska's going to be throwing the ball more.
Mike, do you think it's more important with that in mind for Nebraska to have an offensive line that excels at running the football, with the thought being if you run the football well, it doesn't allow the pass rushers to pin their ears back and get after the quarterback, and it makes your job easier there? Or with how much Nebraska's going to throw the football around, do you think it's more important that they excel at true pass protection to allow Dylan Raiola to step back and have time on, say, a third and long type situation and give your freshman quarterback a little bit more runway in the pocket to make a good decision?
I think that you start with the ability to run the ball. You establish a run heavy approach early in the game to get the defense on its heels. If you can do that, then I think that it opens up things in the passing game. And it gives you an opportunity that you wouldn't have had if you didn't do that. If you just come out and start throwing the ball, I think that's less effective than if you come out and you show that you can run the ball. And the defense has to be alert to that. And you're also physical from that standpoint, so you're wearing the defense down. And then I think that helps with the passing game. So I like the run first ability just to show that you can do it. Not saying that you're going to run the ball 60 times a game or so, whatever, but come out and show that you can do it. And once you establish that, I think you're in a good position to protect the passer and give him an opportunity.
Run game's just truly an offense's best friend, to your point about time of possession, the body blows, the balance, and with a young quarterback, presumably not putting it all on him right away or putting it all on his arm. It makes a ton of sense, doesn't it, to be able to get downhill and hammer away.
Right. Yeah. You want a situation where your quarterback his yardage comes from throwing the ball, not from having to take off and run with it. You don't want your leading rusher to be the quarterback in the offense that you're going to see, because it's a matter of establishing that you can run the ball, but then the emphasis is going to be on being able to throw the ball over the long haul, over the long course of the game.
Mike, in your estimation, I know it's a long ways out. We haven't seen what the offense is going to look like. What do you think is a healthy yardage amount in terms of running the ball, throwing the ball in 2024, knowing what we know about the defense and understanding that the defense is probably going to be what you rely upon? What's healthy yardage? Does that matter to you? Do you follow the Kirk Ferentz train of things that offensive yardage doesn't matter? What matters is time of possession and having more points at the end of the game?
Well, I guess I wouldn't argue with a coach, even if it's Kirk Ferentz.
Even if it's Kirk Ferentz?
The coach probably knows a little bit more about it than I do, pays a little bit more attention to it than I have. But, for me, it's difficult because I'm used to having watched the Tom Osborne teams that were, run heavy, and those teams, they'd run up 300, sometimes 400 yards rushing. you're not going to have that. That's not the nature of the game anymore. But I think you've got to run for what, 150, 200. If you have 200 yards rushing, that's a lot.
Yep.
I think in this kind of a thing, with this kind of an offense. So if you can get 150 yards, I think that's pretty good. And your primary concern is being able to throw the ball. And being able to throw the ball, incorporating the tight end, you're not just throwing a wide receiver, you're throwing to the tight ends as well. You've got tight ends that can catch the ball, because I think that's important in an offense like this.
For me, I look at it, and this could probably be an entire show at some point here this offseason. I look at 225 through the air, 150 to 175 running the football. You put yourself in a pretty good chance to win. That gets you somewhere between 375 and 400 yards total offense. I look at that as being the kind of numbers that I think would be a winning formula with how well your defense is expected to play. You'd be able to get the time of possession running the ball for 150, 175 yards, and 225 yards gives you enough explosiveness through the air to think you're probably putting up points with those rushing yards as well.
Well, the efficiency part's going to be key, right? What are you doing on first down? What's your distance on third down? What's your turnover numbers? Are you even? Are you plus? Are you minus? And my expectation in college football, and again, Mike, I'm a little bit shaded like you. What I watched, what you've covered for years was made to look really, really easy. And that's 7 a carry and 400 rushing yards, or winning a rushing title averaging 309 in a air quote down year. And when you did throw it, you were efficient at throwing it. I think 200's your number. If you're going up against a great rush defense, get that 150 number and be able to throw for 200 and take care of the football. So I'm okay against some of your higher ranked teams. We know that Ohio State's defense, we know that Iowa's defense really, really talented typically. So it's going to be a lower scoring game, presumably. You better be able to giddy up against Colorado if they have success putting up points with their skill guys. You better be able to giddy up on the road if the game turns into a shootout. You don't envision that with Nebraska's defense, but there's going to be a game every year where your offense got to go win it for you, or maybe a couple of games.
Yeah, so. and your point, both, you got to take care of the ball. You can't be turning the ball over. If you can do that, that also helps your offense in a significant way. Mm-hmm. Don't give up the ball in your own territory. Don't make mistakes that hamper your ability to drive the ball down the field. That's one of the things that Nebraska really has to clean up from what happened last year. I mean, it was disaster on the turnovers, and you've got to take care of that. That's got to be really a priority, I think.
Mike, what's coming up from you with your bi-weekly newsletters? What are you working on here?
The latest one, the one that's supposed to come out tomorrow, I think, is the 1998 Oklahoma State game in Arrowhead Stadium.
I love that one. I was there.
Frank Solich's first conference game. And speaking of rushing yards, I think Nebraska had about, I don't remember, like 70-some yards rushing. It was not a good day.
Rex Ryan and the Bear defense.
Yeah, but they got the job done. That was the important thing. It was a 5th consecutive win, and then there were a couple losses in there. But, that's kind of the emphasis. Arrowhead Stadium, I think it was an Oklahoma State home game, but they moved there, and Nebraska took care of business.
Joe Walker saved the day.
Yes.
Mike Rucker and Mike Brown, goal line, baby, right in front of him.
Yeah, Joe Walker, he had during his career punt return, kickoff return, and interception return touchdowns, right?
Love it. Trifecta. Babbers, we'll check in next week. Thank you much, bud.
Thanks, guys.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. We'll dive into the Hall of Fame question for our dear friend, the late, great Mike Leach. We'll do that in hour 2. Some comments from Joel Klatt and Sharon Moore kind of the Solich topic brought up, we'll get to in a minute. Some more comments in the stream about the Father's Day question. Should you have to chip in on your own Father's Day gift? And email from Todd we'll get to in a moment. And you have Ross chiming in here on the strength of schedule versus the win-loss record. That's an excellent point. That's where the SEC, per this On3 projection with 5 SEC teams in the initial 12-team college football playoff to the Big Ten's putrid 3. Strength of schedule and how you look in loss is going to be an absolute factor. If you win 10 games but get boat raced in your 2 losses, that matters. Totally agree with that. Do you compete in those 2 losses, or are you hammered? Is there a clear gap? So that's there. So Eat Beef says probably matters what the final score is in those losses. Even with 10 wins, probably won't make the playoffs, losing to the rest of the teams by 20, kind of echoing some of those comments. Brennan wants Babbers to have a Grateful Red T-shirt next time he's on. Tiger Shark is asking if Prohaska is our left tackle. I do believe that's the plan. Scott says the helmet communication might help the quarterbacks dictate protections a little bit better. I missed this, KG, about asking Babbers about the tie-dye. We'll write it. Iowa's schedule is so easy this year. They could be 8-1 in the Big Ten and still get outscored in conference play with a 70-0 loss to Ohio State.
Just a real potpourri of comments coming into the stream today.
I love it. I love it. Todd's email, when it comes to TVs are cheap, and if you need one, you should already have it. I have a 65-inch in the garage, a 70 in the basement, a 65 in the living room. I'm glad my current wife isn't my son's mom, so we don't do anything, and I'm glad. So, yeah, there shouldn't be this guilt/have-to part of Father's Day. It should be a want-to deal, is my point. Because I guess I can chip in a couple hundred. Anywho. Well, Scott, real quick, you could get the TV, then ask for some steaks or something for Father's Day. Have a nice barbecue. Then she'd understand why the TV was needed. That's how it used to go.
I have an idea for you.
Do talk.
Your wife could buy $200 worth of candles from me.
Oh, no.
Everyone benefits.
You think?
You get candles. Who doesn't love a good candle or 10? I get $200. Your wife gets a good gift. Win, win, win.
Man. Elijah, I love the fact that you're... I will buy her $200 worth of candles next year for Mother's Day, and we'll see how that goes.
Thank you. I can do that.
We'll see how that goes.
Hopefully I'll have the shame stint going by then.
Is Phil Parker a masochist? The real Matthew asking questions we all want to know. The world of college football wants to know what is going to happen with Michigan football. Do you stay elite? Do you fall back to, dare we say, 8-4, 9-3? Joel Klatt sitting down with head coach Sharon Moore, and part of that from earlier today.
You enter this realm, for us that analyze the sport from afar. We've seen, your rivals, Ryan Day, promoted from within. We saw Lincoln Riley promoted from within. We saw with David Shaw when Jim Harbaugh left Stanford, promoted from within. And yet none of those guys had to do what you're about to do, which is take over for the reigning national champions. Last time that happened was Frank Solich when Tom Osborne stepped away in the late 90s from Nebraska. So do you even let that weigh on you? Does that register, or are you more just focused on the business at hand?
Yeah, it doesn't weigh on me that much. I mean, I think about it, but I'm not going to let it put pressure on me. I just want to get better every day. That's it. Just work on this process. We talk about that still with the players, and I'm not going to let it, drain me or try to think about that too much. Just going to work on trying to get better at what I can do every single day to make this team the best they am.
So it's real. It's a talking point. Well, in Harbaugh, he was handpicked, and I love loyalty. I appreciate loyalty, and loyalty needs to be, but you got to get the loyalty part right. And it can't be out of sympathy, out of payback in a good way to hand it over. If there's someone out there that's better, that can keep the standard or exceed the standard, that's who you go get the best person. Mm-hmm. Now, Sharon won some big ball games, won a lot of them, won half of them this year, while Jimbo was on ice for the cheating scandal.
But that's different whenever you're just on the sideline and Harbaugh's still around to practice all week long. It's still Harbaugh's program, still Harbaugh's identity.
Right. No, but when it came to the lights being on, he navigated to victory. Yeah. They avoided the rocks.
Let's see. Can we hear cut two here?
Yeah, we're going
establishing his own identity.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that's kind of the important part of this conversation.
What's most important to you about your identity? Because I'll be real honest. Nobody succeeds trying to emulate someone that they were mentored by. It doesn't happen. You look at all the coaches that left Bill Belichick or Nick Saban. The only guys that can be successful are the ones that just do it their way. I think that's what has made Ryan Day and Lincoln Riley so successful for what they've done. What's a key for you in just being Coach Moore?
Yeah, I'm not going to change. I'm going to be who I've always been. I've always been a process-driven person. That's who I'm going to be. I'm not going to change that, and I'm going to put the players first. Always going to do that, and that's something me and Coach, we're very close on together about how we did things, who this program was about the players, and even the philosophy of offense and defense. I was very close with him and talking about how we did things on a daily basis, how we conducted our business, what the offense, what the defense, what special teams look like. So that philosophy on how we do things will reign true, the same on how we did it last year and the years in the past, because I had a big hand in that. But there'll be some different changes in what we do. But, to my core, we're going to be physical, we're going to be tough, we're going to try to outlast people. We're going to be multiple in every phase, but we're going to be fundamentally sound and balanced what we do.
That's a winning answer. You can still have a winning blueprint and not veer from that, but it can have your own style, your own personality. It's when you come in and you think you know it all and you change what's been working or what can work, and you're wrong, that botches things.
It's to me, can you change how you do things while keeping the same culture?
Sure. You got to keep the same culture, and you've always got to keep adapting, keep tweaking.
Mm-hmm. And that's my question with Michigan here, because the question was, how are you going to do things differently than Harbaugh? So I'm going to do a lot of things the same, which isn't necessarily right, isn't necessarily wrong. I'm curious to see how it plays out. So I kind of consider Michigan, they have great talent. They're still a bit of a wild card to me in the Big Ten this year in terms of, can you maintain that same culture? Can you keep on doing things the way you've been doing?
You've lost a boatload of talent, and while you still have talent, is that new talent ready to step in and play at the same level? We'll wind down hour one next.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? When I point at you, yeah.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
The other Dave may have the answer for Father's Day gifts in the stream. Well played the other Dave. We'll just leave it edited that way. Time to buckle up. Reminder.
That kind of goes hand in hand with what Dave said.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Hands on the wheel, eyes and focus straight ahead. The driver has one job, that's to drive. The message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Brent chimes in. My wife says, "You're not my father," which is fair, since she's not my mother. So thank you, Brent, for chiming in with that.
Could also be for a night if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I need to stop.
Yeah, you're good. Walter is in with the turnover bug, and Walter nailed the other factor here. If you're Michigan was plus 19 in turnover margin in 15 games last year. That helps. If you're plus 15, what are your points off turnovers with that defense. You have KG wants us to send him $200 so he can take it to the dog track and turn it into several thousand.
The dog track?
He says he's a big time home run hitter with the
Greyhounds.
The Greyhounds.
It's a niche thing to be good at.
Always bet on Santa's little helper.
Is that not? I feel like dog track betting is one of the more niche things to be betting on. Like, I'm not saying call the hotline, but
wow. Listen.
I've met some people who like have tried it. I've never anyone who's like super into it.
No, I've gone to the horse track a few times and just gave my donation. I have no clue about horses other than it's a great time. It's a ton of fun. But no, I mean, it's 1-800-BETS-OFF, you know. But we did have a hell of a good time up at Ameristar. That was great. That was so good right before the Nebraska basketball game. Our parlay failed. We got to get back up there again for some football. That'd be cool. That'd be all good. Crew has invited us. He's invited you, but asked me to tag along Saturday. He's got a Saturday a day drinking and tailgating, apparently, up at the CWS.
Mm-hmm. I think I'll make an appearance.
Are you? All right.
Why not?
I love it. That's cool. Come see us, Zipline, Friday. We're doing a live show 4 to 6, just across the street from Charles Schwab Field as the CWS in full form gets going on Friday night. We'll spend some time. Nebraska's new get on the diamond. What does Evan Bland think of that? Povich versus Swellenbach tonight.
It's going, I think, in like half an hour.
5:30. Mm-hmm. So that'll be cool. A couple of Huskers on the hill.
Speaking of former Huskers, Matt Waldron got a shout out on Twitter from Patrick Mahomes about an hour ago.
Yeah, the knuckleball.
Yeah,
which was great. Pretty cool. And we'll dive in, time permitting, with the Hall of Fame discussion. And it really is not a discussion with the Pirate Mike Leach. Should he be in? Really good article from Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports. Sat down with Sharon, Mike's widow, and Pirates 0.04% away from technically being a Hall of Fame coach. We know he's already one. Evan Bland on the way, hour 2 coming up with Hail Varsity.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Thanks for spending time. It's hour 2. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. And we welcome in and say hello to Evan Bland from the Omaha World Herald at Evan Bland, OWH. He has got the eye black on, all sorts of good coverage with the CWS in tow. And Evan, thanks for joining us, man. You're ready for the greatest show on dirt. How are you?
Hey, yeah, doing well. If I had time to tailgate, I'd be pulling that thing outside of Schwab Field and getting ready to roll. So as long as the weather holds out, we got a power field, and for better or worse, with this SEC ACC challenge, you're going to have some really good baseball, really good fan bases, and it should be a fun week in Omaha.
Who are you with LSU out, and LSU may still, per your colleague Tom Chattel, win the Jello Shot Challenge? Is there a dark horse or a second team that, with LSU omitted, may take the new crown?
Yeah, I mean, LSU is like a write-in candidate. I still think would finish somewhere in the middle of the field. Tennessee, I think, could do all right. Kentucky, though, is probably the one that I would put near the top. First time coming to Omaha, it's a fan base that's really excited about it. They don't mind their moonshine or whatever down there, I suppose. So I think Big Blue Nation's probably pretty pumped about coming up to this thing, and I guess I would put them near the top of that leaderboard. A&M, maybe if they last a while, they could get excited too. But I mean, the power of LSU, man, like they bow out in regionals, but I think you're still going to see a lot of purple and gold as you usually do when they're not here. So there's going to be a presence, and I think everyone's just ready to have some fun.
One of my questions here, Evan, is what team will Nebraskans get behind? Not just in the Jello Shot Challenge, but also in the College World Series as a whole. It could push that school over the top. I think Texas A&M, straight out, with everything that happened with Trev, no chance. Florida, because they bounced Nebraska in the regionals, probably not either.
I don't know. You might jump on Florida just because all right, if you're going to lose to the champ. I don't know.
It's possible. I don't know. Evan, who do you think Nebraska, I guess Nebraskans, I was going to say Nebraska fans, but I'll just say Nebraskans as a whole. Which team do you think they jump behind?
Well, I think Florida's a possibility. I personally, like, if I'm following a team and they lose in the playoffs, like, I want the team that they lose to do something. So it's a memorable sort of encounter. So, like, I could see the idea that Nebraska's fans would want Florida to go all the way. And you can say, yeah, you lost to a regional 3 seed twice, but you lost to a team that made Omaha and maybe made a deep run. So I think it's a pretty likable Florida team, too. I mean, Jack Caglianone's the star, I would say, of the CWS. He's certainly going to be the highest draft pick here in about a month. So they're fun in that way. It's a familiar brand. So I think you can make that argument. I would say Kentucky would be another one that could be popular. I mean, we've seen it in kind of recent years when schools make these deep runs that they never had done before, like Mississippi State and Ole Miss, and how excited the community got and how many more people came later into the event. So I kind of can feel those vibes with Kentucky. I mean, you watch some of their regional and super regionals, like, it's a smaller park out there. It sort of reminds me a little bit of Nebraska's breakthrough at the end of its Buck Belzer days, where, like, the park was small, the interest had outgrown what the program had been, and I just kind of see some of those vibes with Kentucky. So maybe you could relate to that a little bit. And then, NC State's kind of an interesting one too. I mean, what does the local fan base do to sort of cheer on the program that really got the shaft in 21 because of the COVID outbreak? And that was a team that was really good, that could have won the championship and didn't ever have the chance to do that. And there are still some players that are on this team that were on that team that the coach is the same. So maybe there's sort of a feel-good redemption story from the Wolfpack too.
Evan Bland with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Evan with the Omaha World Herald, and can follow him on Twitter at Evan Bland, OWH. So, Evan, let's talk about Cale Frost, Nebraska's newest addition via the portal for Will Bolton Company. 21 bombs, 343 average. His home run numbers jumping from JUCO to SDSU. And tell me what your thoughts are on the addition.
Well, I think it's probably the best transfer bat Nebraska's added in the portal era. I mean, there's not a ton of competition for that title. And I think what Frost did last season, you mentioned the numbers. I mean, that you'll take that anywhere. Summit League Player of the Year, broke out at the junior college level, and he just so happens to play a corner infield positions that Nebraska needs to fill. I mean, with Cole Evans moving on, Garrett Anglem, Clay Bradford, we know they're done. Gabe Swanson, TBD, depending on how the draft goes. So you insert in one of those, either left or right, the kind of power bat that Frost has. That's a heck of a start toward building that offense and that lineup in 2025. And what I found interesting about his recruiting story, having spoken with him last night, well, it was just a reminder that, like, you never know with recruiting, especially in the portal era. So, like, he visits Kansas, he visits Minnesota, but the thing that stands out about Nebraska was the crowd on a Wednesday night where SDSU won the game, and he hadn't played in front of a crowd anywhere close to that all season. And so that resonated with him. That's a big reason why he's going to be a Husker now. And so, like, it's kind of funny in an ironic twist, like, the game that Nebraska fans lament as the worst loss of the season actually helped produce one of their best portal acquisitions in years. So kind of a cool turnaround there. And I think it's also worth mentioning with him too, that, he does have some major league draft interest from scouts. You look at some of the prospect boards, he's inside the top 400 on a couple different outlets. So you're going to have to survive the draft. I think it's pretty likely that he will, but that's something else you have to watch. And I think it also speaks to just the season that he had and kind of how he's thought of in baseball circles.
With Frost, Evan, his stats against Nebraska, 1 for 5, 2 strikeouts. I mean, I'm kidding. I'm fully kidding here. My question, when you look at the season stats as a whole, why wasn't there more? I mean, you think of the power conferences, SEC, Big 12. Was there interest from those schools? I know you laid out Minnesota and Kansas. Was there more interest from those bigger schools? Because those numbers are kind of hard to miss. I know it's Summit League. I know it's South Dakota State, and that's kind of far from somewhere some of the baseball powers are. But those numbers really jump off the page at you.
Yeah, they do. And, he did say that he took a number of other calls. But, sometimes guys do want to stay close to home. And this is a guy from eastern Iowa who, South Dakota State's not too terribly far from his home. He went to junior college in Iowa. And so I think location also was a factor. I mean, like I mentioned, Minnesota and Kansas and Nebraska, there's a certain geographical commonality there. So I think that probably did play into it a little bit, but I think the game that he had at Haymarket Park, that was an eye-opening experience for him. Like, you look at the attendance numbers that he played in front of last year, rarely was it over even 1,000, and it was never 2,000. And so he comes rolling in on a Wednesday night, and you see 5,000 plus on hand, and his team won the game. So, I think that had a powerful effect on him. And he mentioned liking the coaches. They did reach out to him and have him come tour the facilities, and so he liked all that. And I think too, just the season that they had and the pitch that Nebraska baseball can make to portal prospects is, come here, help us be that team that breaks through, as opposed to maybe being a cog in another SEC wheel. I do think there's an appeal for some regional guys in that way as well. So it all just kind of came together. Oftentimes in the portal, it's going to take a personal connection with somebody or geographical proximity. And in this case, it was sort of the latter, also mixed with just the coincidence that he happened to play in Haymarket this year.
Evan Bland with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. Evan going to transition to football. And Corey Campbell showed off the weight room, and some media members got to make some really cool nutrition, some dishes today with the media session. And the one thing that Campbell's done, you've seen this football team transform. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. And there's really an era of relentlessness to them. That comes from Matt Rule, but Campbell's been big time for Nebraska. You get this sense of confidence, and he's talked about it. Evan, Nebraska needs to break through, yes, but how far can confidence carry this football team, and why do you think they're more confident?
Well, I think if you have faith in the process and that's what you focus on, then the results are what they are. And it's not to say that a loss doesn't upset you, but if you really believe in what you're doing every day is making you a little bit better, then that creates, I think, this foundation that's harder to shake. And the staff has done a really good job of articulating both internally and externally to fans and media what their process is and how they go about kind of detailing nutrition to each player or catering nutrition to each player, and how they build up guys individually in terms of strength training. So I think all of that has sort of created this air of confidence. And the other part that I always think is impactful is how do you start the season? And how many years has it been now that Nebraska's started the season with a loss, and you're playing from behind, and you don't have that positive result right away? I think that's one of the reasons why the schedule sets up so well for them. They're at home, the schedule's more manageable. And how many times over the years have we seen a team that's playing maybe above its perceived ability because of a hot start. Like, I think it happens, you see it every year where a team starts 3 or 4-0, and then maybe they have that confidence that carries that momentum into the rest of the year. So I think that's going to play a part for Nebraska, how it starts its season in the fall. But there's no doubt, like, just the details that this staff communicates to players, the results they've seen individually and behind the scenes, I think, and you see it bear out in how few people have left through the portal. I think it all tells you that there's a transparency level going on that you don't see a lot in college football. And now, again, like, it has to translate to the field. We haven't seen that happen yet, but if it does, man, it feels like that's one of the reasons why Nebraska is such a popular breakout pick nationally this season.
And Evan, whenever you kind of mentioned that some of those teams that start off the season hot and they're able to carry it through, I mean, the ultimate team to me is TCU. That started the season off well. They carried it into a college football playoff. They even were able to take down Michigan with that confidence. Then everyone knows what happened in the national championship game. But speaking of confidence here, Evan, I saw that the Husker staff put together a bit of a cooking competition for the media members in attendance. It was a stir fry. I didn't see you in any pictures or any videos. Do you already have confidence in your stir fry ability? Is that what's going on?
You know, I've missed so few of these availabilities over the years. I'm getting ready for the College World Series. I wasn't able to get out there today.
Okay.
You know, it didn't happen. Seeing the video evidence tells me, though, that this ends a very long streak of Nebraska providing Valentinos to media members. So this has to be about as healthy of a food, gift given to media members that I can remember. So I guess I just picked poorly on that. I don't know if I can make a stir fry. I think that's the talent of Kristen Coggan right there. I mean, you see, guys like Wilson Moore at the World Herald or some of the other folks that were out there diving in, maybe not looking the most comfortable in the world, but I think by the end of it, maybe they picked up a few skills. And so, what better way to sort of demonstrate the lessons being taught to freshman players than by doing it to mid-20s media members who as reputation would have it, we like our food maybe a little bit quicker rather than healthier sometimes.
I'm just imagining someone out there dropping the ball, ordering Valentinos and saying, what should we do? Let's make the media members make their own food. It's stir fry.
Send it to the coaches' offices. Evan, the omelet or the chicken, I've seen some of the recruits do chicken breast, right? The hibachi chicken breast. But I've also seen, like, the omelet station. Are you a fantastic omelet maker, or do you go order an omelet?
I've made a couple omelets in my day, but like if I'm at a hotel, like the fancy hotels, right, that have the omelet stations. I mean, that's high level to me. You get some green peppers in there, some onions, whatever else it might be, some sausage. That's living. Like that's the good stuff. So I don't know. I mean, why not both? Start the day in there with the omelet bar, and then cap it off in the afternoon with some hibachi chicken, maybe some rice on the side, some veggies. I think I'm feeling healthier, performing better just thinking about it.
That's pretty good.
You could go best of both worlds with some egg fried rice. The hibachi chicken, best of both.
Now you're talking.
Yeah, that'd be a win. Evan, we'll have a cold one for you and with you, time permitting, as we'll be back at Zipline and roll on over. If you get a little bit of time between sessions, my friend, we'll be up there starting Friday and part of next week as well.
Perfect. Yep, I'll see you guys then next week. Sounds good.
All right, Evan, take care, bud. Appreciate you. There he is. Evan Bland with us from the Omaha World Herald at Evan Bland OWH. Good to have him. Appreciate him and his time. We'll dive into the Hall of Fame topic with Coach Leach and more on that confidence discussion point when it comes to Nebraska football. I think Evan put it perfectly, faith in the process. And, Riley, I should say, wow, slap me. Rule talks a lot about believing before seeing.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Hope you do it okay. We'll dive into that topic of confidence. Time permitting, we'll dive into the Hall of Fame case for the Pirate, Mike Leach. 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Good stuff from Evan Bland. You want the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. It's where you can download the audio. The video going to be there for you as you can watch and subscribe. Hail Varsity YouTube, like and subscribe there. Give us a rating, like and subscribe on the Hail Varsity Radio podcast page as well. Any of those platforms. Follow on Twitter at HVarsity Radio, 489-1240. So confidence is a tricky thing, right? Usually you have to do before you believe. And that's fair, that's normal. And with Coach Campbell and what he's done strength and conditioning-wise, you've seen guys really thrive in their gains, their ability, and they've taken that weight room, and our dear friend Jay Moore is right on. You know, the weight room's one thing, but weights don't hit back. It's a great saying Jay Moore has always provided this with. You've got to be able to hit back and take those bench presses, those squats, that explosiveness, and apply it to the field against the dude you're lined up across, or the two guys you're trying to keep from wrecking the game. If you're on the offensive line or defensively, are you getting pummeled on a 12-play, 80-yard drive, or are you getting body blowed? Well, I think your poster child for the strength and conditioning just success is Nash. I think the polar bear, just how quick and athletic he is now. What's been unlocked with his plan, and then the fact that the guy shed 30-plus pounds to go wrestle, he'll put that back on in muscle. You see Ty Robinson more mobile and athletic. There's always been a ceiling for a lot of guys. And do they reach it? And guys like Amir Abdullah, yeah, they absolutely reached it. If you think about self-made dudes. But you've got some self-made motivation with a number of guys on this football team that will put the work in because they just want to win. And then you've got this strength and conditioning staff that is going to make them not only physically tougher, but you factor in the coaching staff that's working on the mental toughness part. You put all that together, and there's your wins, there's your difference, there's your confidence, and you haven't even kicked off, Elijah, for 2024. But I think the guys saw enough in the good and the bad of 2023 that the buy-in's the buy-in. And then you go do what's laid out for you. You follow that process.
Well, do you believe, and my question here is, what happens to this football team whenever something does inevitably go wrong for them this season?
That'll be key.
What happens if Colorado jumps out 14-0 at home under the lights at Memorial Stadium? What's the response going to be? Because for years,
well, the saying is what's next, but yeah, it's still there's a rubber meets the road moment. How do you respond?
Because I mean, we heard for years under Coach Frost, that was the best practice they ever had. Great week of practice.
No fear of failure. No fear of failure. Right.
The mantras can be everything, but it was that same story time and time again whenever things went wrong for those Frost era teams.
We're this close.
And once it pops, it's really going to pop around here. We heard that a lot as well. But whenever it was, as you said, rubber meets the road time, whenever it was nut cutting time, whenever it's a close ball game late, this team did not play like a team that was confident. And I think you even had that same issue last year where you saw some strides in the right direction, but still for the most part, whenever it was a close ball game late, something went wrong. Even late in the year, Maryland, we saw it. Iowa, we saw it. Wisconsin, kind of we saw it. That team battled and they still ended up losing that game against Wisconsin. We still haven't seen that moment that proves to me that, yeah, the confidence is different. And as you said, the weights don't hit back. You can build confidence in the weight room. You can build confidence on the practice field. But it's going to take, to me, a moment where you see something's different. Whether it's the guy behind center who goes and leads a game-winning drive and instills confidence from the team. Whether it's the defense standing tall just outside of field goal range late in the fourth quarter and it preserves a win. I still need to see that moment of, you know what, it is different now. The confidence is different now. And it might just take a moment of you need to have that improved talent, that improved development that leads you to a victory in order to gain that confidence. But after so many years of falling short in close moments because of what seems from the outside looking in to be a lack of confidence, I'm at believe it when I see it type point.
That's fair. And to be honest, the fan base is looking at this PTSD. The players live it because there is that here we go again mentality. I don't care what you say. It's buried, and it may be buried deeper than it's been before. But there is that, oh, bleep, here we go again, right? And are you confident in your leader? I think the confidence absolutely waned in the previous guy and staff, quite honestly. And right now you have guys that really buy in and believe in their head coach. Part of that is, all right, I've seen personal gains as a player. He's not BS'd me with where I'm at and what I need to work on. There's plenty of transparency. And when it comes to that confidence at the top, if you have that, he'll communicate the plan and the why. And when you do that and then it works, then it's okay. It's not always going to be perfect. The other part of this equation is, do you have a guy that's trained, and do you have a guy that can just go make a play? You might at quarterback.
Well, and that comes down to, there's the two different areas of confidence that I think are important. You laid about being confident in your leader, and I think that's more than just the head coach. I think that's position coach. I think that's the elder statesman in your whatever room it would be, defensive back room, quarterback room, linebacker room. Are you confident in the guy atop that? But are you also confident in the guys that are playing next to you?
Very fair.
Because I think
I think that's fair to say that you weren't always thinking the guy next to you is going to do his job, so maybe you tried to do his as well and you screwed the pooch.
I mean, like, I especially look at the offensive side of the ball last year. Like, were the wide receivers necessarily confident in the quarterbacks? No, I don't think so. Was the quarterback necessarily confident in the pass protection ability of his offensive line?
The wideouts necessarily, as young as they were, always knew what they were doing.
Did the offensive line? This is the one area I think we saw improvement throughout the year. Did the offensive line always trust where the running back was going to be, that the running back was going to hit the hole? I think that got better as the year went on. But like, until I see like all of these things come together, and the guys are trusting the guys next to him. The guys are trusting their leaders. Like, it's more than just that simple. Like, man, these guys are confident in themselves. Confidence and playing with confidence in those key moments is deeper than just that.
Well, it's got to happen. Right?
We've been saying that for years.
No, I know, but eventually, like, guy's going to go make a play. Nebraska's going to get a stop. Nebraska's going to get a conversion, and you'll figure it out. You won't get in your own head with it. You'll just go play, because they always talk about rely on your training. It's that military mantra. But eventually you just got to go do it and quit talking about it. And I think that's been a fair message as well from Rule.
I mean, I think, honestly, this is an issue that dates back, you could even go all the way into the Bo Pelini era. And not every single game with Bo, but what happens whenever it was prime time, the lights are on, you have a top 15 opponent.
You'd have one play that would cause an absolute avalanche, and instead of being up 13 or 17 or 10 at Ohio State, you were up at Wisconsin, and the Big 10 title game is its own difference because you started off with an interception, but you had a UCLA, you miss a sack, they score 24 straight points on you. I mean, you have that, oh God, moment, and then it's just it's unholy what happened, where you get run out of the park. Your offense shuts down, your defense can't stop anybody, and you're just absolutely taking a beating for the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that was guy got a little pissed and went psycho on the sideline. Everyone got scared. Puckers happened. You're already playing a good team that's physical, and it didn't help the situation. One thing with Mickey, and he said this after Iowa when it got tight, like, if daddy don't panic, nobody panics. He was right. I mean, as a head coach, as many tight games as he was in, dude was pretty intense but chill on the sideline. Like, he was always kind of had that aura of confidence. I feel that same way with Rule. Now, the guys got to go get out of their own head in some of those moments.
Got to wait for it to happen. It's
got to go make it happen.
Thank God I'm not a coach in that building, I guess is the easiest way to put this, because it's such a confluence of different factors. And sure, hopefully it starts in the weight room. Hopefully it starts in summer conditioning, and then you continue to build that through fall camp, and then UTEP you can build, and then you hope confidence can be built through that Colorado game at home, where there should be a lot of factors that are in your favor, from the mood of Memorial Stadium to the improved team that you have, especially at the quarterback position. Can you build confidence through that? Like, it's not a one-game moment, but I think there are going to be little moments throughout this season that'll be big in terms of, can Nebraska flip the script in terms of confidence?
It was interesting. We were talking about some of those teams that get some momentum and jump on a roll. I think 98 Tennessee, they were really good. They had played in a title game, but they had just lost Peyton Manning. And here's T. Martin in 1998. They outscore enough teams and go win a national championship, for the love of God, out of the blue. TCU, big time. They were good, but they got hot. They had a good conference schedule. Oklahoma, back from the dead 24 years ago in 2000. Stoops' second year. It was after the Pirate was the OC and Mount Mangino was the OC. And then even Michigan State. Those Michigan State teams, they would pull off some sort of fake field goal against Notre Dame, start out 6-0, beat Michigan, outlast Nebraska somehow. They were good. Those Rose Bowl teams that D'Antonio had, that 2013 and 14 seasons, well, 2012 they lost about every chasing three opportunity, and they springboarded from those previous failures.
How about Minnesota in year 2 under Fleck, when they ended up going 11-2? 11-2, I guess, with the bowl game, yeah.
No, you know what got them? They found a way to beat Penn State at home. It launched them into the stratosphere.
That Indiana COVID year where it came down to Penix overtime, and you had the guy that you were confident in, but that kind of snowball effect, they played better than their roster was.
And what'd they do that year? They beat Penn State week 1 at home in a shootout. You need that one game to launch you. You got it week 2. Start off with week 1, though.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Time for a Jock Doc Wednesday. Nebraska Orthopedic Center. Dr. Brandon Seifert with us. Dr. Brandon, it is rare in all the years we've been doing Jock Doc to do the same athlete a week later, and we're talking Porzingis for Boston, and has a, quote, rare leg injury. You're the doc. I will let you take the pronunciation away.
Yeah, I know it really is a very rare injury. There's some case reports of this, but definitely not a lot of volume of this, in terms of research has been done. But essentially, as we try to dive into the anatomy on this, so if you basically think about your ankle, and you have kind of the two ball portions of your ankle, predominantly when we talk about injuries on here, ankle sprains and whatnot, it's usually more the outside ball portion we're talking about, called the distal fibula. But if you move your fingers over to the inside of your ankle, so the ball that's on the inside, that's called the medial malleolus. And if you take your fingers and walk your fingers off the back of that ball, behind that there's kind of a little groove that sits behind that ball portion back there, and that's where this tendon is located. It's called the posterior tibialis tendon, and it acts as kind of basically an ankle toe kind of flexor. We call like a plantar flexion, so it kind of allows you to go up on your toes is one of the main functions of it. And what happened here is, and so typically that ligament, or excuse me, that tendon stays behind the portion and kind of slides behind the ball. What happened here is there's a tissue that sits over the top of that kind of holds it down into that position so it doesn't slide over the front of the ball portion when the muscle fires that pulls on it. And that tissue is called the medial retinaculum, posterior retinaculum. It has a couple of different names. And it's basically a strong kind of fascial tissue that kind of holds things in place, if you will, acts as kind of a support structure. And so in his scenario, talk about he's got a tear in that area, and because of that, now that posterior tibialis tendon, which sits behind the ball portion, can kind of freely slide forward and can actually dislocate and go all the way over the top of the ball portion to the front. And that's essentially what's happening here, as he has kind of like basically a subluxation or dislocation of posterior tibialis tendons. Obviously painful when it happens, makes the ankle feel quite unstable, but it also kind of takes away that kind of power generator as you go up on your toes.
Dr. Brandon Seifert's with us. A Jock Doc Wednesday. Porzingis, our topic. Left leg issue. Third.
Say it.
Retinaculum. There we go.
Medial retinaculum. Good job.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Medial retinaculum. And third quarter, game 2. And Elijah tracked this moment down. Going for a rebound is where he went up. Kind of a knee-to-knee thing, unofficially.
Mm-hmm.
And so can he go? It doesn't sound like he's been scratched. And I know we're an hour or so away as we talk from getting the nitty-gritty of Game 3 going, and it's a must-have for the Mavs. But Porzingis, 11 points, really set the tone off the bench in Game 1. I'm saying if the guy can give 9 minutes a half as a rim protector, he can change the complexity of the game. He can contribute. Dr. Brandon, what is the issue with him trying to go? What is worst case scenario from a further injury standpoint?
Yeah, so, to rewind a touch, I do think he could go. I do think they'll do some techniques to kind of try to tape that area, to try to hold it back in place, probably put a brace on him, which makes him a little bit more immobile, but still puts him out there. It won't, probably totally alleviate the symptoms or the pathology here. It might help with it. But then in terms of, kind of the strategy, how do you put him out there? Can he go? I think, again, he could try it. I think there's a pretty easy chance that if he's going to feel symptoms from it, I'm guessing it probably will feel like it's kind of unstable or subluxes while he plays. The question will be, can he push through the discomfort that's there? But more importantly, does he feel that, as we talked about before, can he have that confidence where he feels like he can play and can protect himself and obviously still be a contributor?
Dr. Brandon, by all accounts, this seems to be a rare injury. So this is kind of a two-part question. First, is it a bit of an unknown in terms of how he's going to be able to play through this because it's so rare, A? And then B, the rarity of that injury. Do you think it's at all affected by that calf strain that he was dealing with coming into the finals? Is that like a contributing factor to why you get such a weird injury such as this?
Yeah, absolutely. So you start to, ask some questions about it because it is such a difficult diagnosis to make. It's super rare. Honestly, you're not even really kind of thinking about it most of the time. And so you do wonder if they were not real specific about what his calf symptoms were. It almost makes you wonder, did he maybe have this issue already kind of going on, and kind of the symptoms he was feeling more proximally up into that muscle belly coming off that posterior tibialis that runs through kind of the gastroc or calf region. Almost makes you wonder if maybe that's kind of where it started, where he was feeling referred pain up to that area that felt like a calf strain. Then as he kind of moved along, maybe that pathology more clearly identified itself more in the back of the ankle, and that's where they found it later. That would be more my guess or my assumption. But again, sure, you could have gastroc issues, calf issues, and then you start to land wrong, you start to take off differently, and sure, that could cause enough force in a guy that big playing at that level where you could basically tweak or tear part of that retinacular tissue.
Dr. Brandon Seifert's with us, Nebraska Orthopedic Center at Jock Doc Wednesday. Porzingis and his rare left leg injury. What type of treatment has been ongoing since that Game 2 moment? We're talking after Game 2 to now. What work has the medical staff been doing?
Yeah, so the key there is you want to make sure you maintain your motion. 2, obviously you want some type of anti-inflammatory environment on board to help calm down the symptoms. 3, you want to be able to make sure you're continuing with your strengthening exercises so you can kind of strengthen up the other musculature and supporting structures in the area. And then that kind of final thing would be trying to figure out what's the most appropriate type of immobilization you could use, from whether it's some taping to the area, immobilizing him with utilizing some type of what we call ASO, some type of ankle brace that he could wear. It's kind of along the lines of what they're thinking in terms of just kind of managing these symptoms to allow him to play. Also, he might be walking around kind of in what we call a walking boot or a cam boot, again, just to take pressure and forces off this area. And then, of course, he goes into his regular shoot for games.
Will this need surgery?
It's such a uncommon thing that's out there. The vast majority of these that are in the case reports, which is not many, most go on to surgery. My guess is he would need that. It's pretty hard to stabilize this just with the mobilization, and also trying to think that that's going to scar back in. Typically, surgery would be probably a much better long-term outcome for him in terms of accomplishing the goal of, stabilizing that area, and which then allows him to go back and play at a much higher level.
So, Dr. Brendan, last thought here, about 60 seconds. What's the timetable then, assuming he plays through the finals, gets the surgery done? What's that timetable for recovery looking like?
Yeah, again, the protocols for this are kind of all over the map. I think the best take on it would be, I bet he's back within 6 or 8 months, pretty much doing everything would be my take on it. Again, that could go longer, but that still puts him in a good window for, being able to train and be ready for next year.
Dr. Brandon Seifert's with us, Nebraska Orthopedic Center. Jock Doc Wednesday, Porzingis and his situation. Dr. Brandon, great stuff. Thanks for the time today.
Okay, fellas, take care.
Well, Porzingis, can he give her a go? You'd like to think so. The Husker Invitational is underway. Baltimore v. Atlanta. Schwelle and Povich, and a special guest in the announcer's booth we'll tell you about.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, Hail Varsity Radio. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Schmidt and Elijah Herbel. Thanks for all the feedback and thoughts in the stream today. We'll try and get to more tomorrow. Gary Barnett going to be with us, Brandon Vogel with us, Danny Burke, BurksBeat.com. Vic, appreciate you, brother. Had a fun show today. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play for the audio portion of the podcast, and get to Hail Varsity YouTube channel for the video, and like and subscribe to both. Feedback, we appreciate it. Steak and a beer time tonight. But first, Will Bolt, how's he in the booth?
Yeah, he is currently in the top half of the second inning.
Is it on MLB TV?
No.
So did you just pirate into?
No. I wouldn't do that.
The game's in Camden Yards, right?
Yeah, it's in Baltimore. And Will Bolt in attendance. He's in the broadcast booth with the Orioles here in the top of the second inning, kind of talking about the development process for both Schwellenbach and Povich.
So
and
it's a Husker infomercial.
It is a free Husker infomercial for the Baltimore area. So it's an all right interview. He's doing pretty well. I mean, we've spent enough time around Will. He's comfortable around the mic. So just sitting in there, having a little chat about the guys. Povich is a strike away from getting out of the top half of the second unscathed, and still a scoreless ball game. But it's been kind of interesting here during the break. This segment's coming and it ruined it. I was enjoying during the commercial break getting to listen in with Will Bolt, but work takes precedent, I guess. I'm kidding.
You're 120 seconds away.
Yeah. So been some interesting insight there, and it's also just been kind of fun to see Will Bolt wearing the Husker polo, getting some free publicity for Husker Baseball out there. As we came back from this break, he was talking about the upward trajectory of the Husker Baseball program, what they're kind of trying to build.
Nope, that's cool. So, steak and a beer. Celtics, Mavs. Celtics up 2-0. -3.5. Mavs are favored. Kyrie has shot 2 free throws, averaging 13 points, shooting 35%.
Not as bad as Jason Tatum. Good Lord.
Does he go off? Does Kyrie find some home cooking? Boston got into his head. Of course, he played there. They didn't like how it ended there. And Boston's a pretty tough place to go play.
Well, did you see, it was one of the Boston fan sites released an article, I think it was yesterday, saying Kyrie Irving is finally doing his best to help the Celtics win a title.
That is so good. Oh, man.
What's the line in tonight's game?
-3.5, Dallas.
I'll take Dallas -3.5.
Okay, I'll take Boston. I hate that bet, but
I think
you go for it.
I think Jason Tatum has been playing horribly at home. I think that's going to continue on the road, and I don't know how many games they can continue to win with Jason Tatum playing horribly. I think the Mavericks in front of their home fans get a little something going. I'm going to take the Mavericks to cover that.
Okay, you take Dallas. I will take Boston.
I did get the under on game 1, by the way. We never did circle back on that one.
Yeah, so I've got to.
So you owe me one.
I've got to get even. I have to get even, or I have to go buy one of those Fred Flintstone type steaks and have you and Will over.
We're not going to do a secondary stake in a bet on the Braves and the Orioles. You want to bet against the Huskers?
What's the run line?
I don't know.
We looked that
I was going to take it straight up. I was going to take the Orioles.
What's the score?
0-0, bottom of the second.
I'll take Atlanta.
You'll take Atlanta? I know you kind of grew up as a half Braves fan.
No,
just the fact that they were on TV all the time.
I really didn't. I just like the fact they beat Barry Bonds' Pirates every year in the NLCS.
Well, also, weren't Braves games available on TV here?
Oh, they were the afternoon babysitter. TBS and the Cubs. I was more of a Cubs Harry Carey guy. Back at 4 tomorrow. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in to Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.